Yuntei never wanted to be a hero. He was just an engineer. His job was simple. Fix things when they broke. Keep the ship running. Stay quiet and let the important people do the important work. The diplomatic mission to the Valari homeworld was the biggest event in human history. 5 years of careful talks. 5 years of sending messages across the stars, and now, finally, humans would meet the Valari face to face. Tay was not supposed to talk to anyone important. He was told this many times. The diplomats would handle everything. He would stay in the engine room and touch nothing except machines. But Tay had a problem. He got bored easily. And when he got bored, he wandered. The Valari palace was huge. It was made of something that looked like black glass. The walls seemed to eat light instead of reflecting it. Everything was cold and perfect. No dust, no warmth, no life. Tay walked through empty halls, looking at strange art on the walls. The Valari did not smile in their pictures. They stood tall and still, like statues, pretending to be alive. He found a door that was slightly open. He should have walked away. He knew this. But curiosity was another one of his problems. The door led to a garden. But it was not like any garden on Earth. The plants were silver and blue. They glowed softly in the darkness. 3 moons hung in the purple sky above. The air smelled like rain and something sweet he could not name. And there, standing alone among the glowing flowers, was the most beautiful and terrifying creature Tay had ever seen. She was tall, very tall, at least 7 feet. Her skin was silver, like polished metal. Her hair was long and white, floating slightly as if she was underwater. Her eyes were violet, and they glowed like the plants around her. Tay knew who she was immediately. Everyone on the ship had studied her face. Queen Izara, supreme ruler of the Valari Empire, commander of 800 worlds, the most powerful being in 3 galaxies. He should run. He should apologize and run. But she looked sad. Tay had seen that look before. On his sister's face when their parents died. On his own face in the mirror during lonely nights in space. It was the look of someone carrying a weight too heavy to hold. The queen turned and saw him. Her violet eyes locked onto his. Tay felt his heart stop. "Human," she said. Her voice was cold and beautiful, like wind through ice. "You are in a restricted area." "I know," Tay said. His voice cracked. "I got lost. Very lost. Extremely lost." She studied him. Her face showed nothing. "You do not seem afraid?" Tay laughed nervously. This was his worst habit. When he was scared, he laughed. When he was nervous, he made jokes. It had gotten him in trouble his whole life. "I am terrified," he said. "My legs have forgotten how to move. I think my soul already left my body." The queen tilted her head slightly. "Your soul left your body? Are you dying?" No, it is just an expression. Humans say strange things when they are nervous." "Why are you nervous?" "Because you could kill me with a thought, probably. I assume you can do that." "You look like you can do that." The queen said nothing. She simply watched him with those glowing eyes. The silence stretched. Tay's nervous brain searched desperately for something to fill it, and then his mouth made a terrible mistake. "You know," he said, "you would make a cute wife. It is a shame about the whole terrifying empress thing." The moment the words left his mouth, Tay wanted to die. He wanted the ground to open and swallow him. He wanted to travel back in time and tape his own mouth shut. He waited for the guards. For the execution order? For pain. But the queen did something he did not expect. She froze completely, like someone had pressed pause on reality. Her silver cheeks turned a soft shade of violet. Her eyes widened. She touched her own face, as if checking that it was still there. She said slowly. "I agree." Tay blinked. "What?" "I agree to the bonding. The ceremony will begin at dawn." "Wait, what?" "No, I was joking." It was a joke. The queen's expression did not change. "Joking?" "Yes, a joke. Something funny. Not serious. Humans do this when we are nervous. We say things we do not mean. You do not mean your words? Well, I mean, you are beautiful. Yes, obviously. Anyone with eyes can see that. But I was not actually. I did not think. This is not among the Valari. Words are sacred bonds, the queen said. To speak is to promise. You have offered yourself as a mate. I have accepted. This is law. Tay felt the blood leave his face. That cannot be right. I am just an engineer. I fix pipes and wires. I am nobody. You are the human who proposed to the queen of the Valari Empire, she said. You are no longer nobody. She stepped closer to him. Tay wanted to step back, but his legs still refused to work. She was so tall. He had to look up to meet her eyes. You are strange, she said softly. You speak to me without fear, without formality. No one has ever done this. I'm very sorry. I can start being formal now. Your Majesty, Your Highness, Your terrifying excellency. No, she said. Something in her voice changed. It became softer, almost warm. I do not want that. She turned and walked toward the palace. At the door, she stopped and looked back at him. Dawn, she said, prepare yourself, human. You are to be my husband. Then she was gone. Tay stood alone in the glowing garden. The three moons watched him without pity. The sweet-smelling air suddenly felt very cold. What have I done? He whispered back on the ship. The diplomatic team did not take the news well. You did what? Shouted the lead diplomat, a woman named Bora. Her face was red. Tay had never seen anyone so angry. I made a joke, Tay said weakly. I did not know they would take it seriously. They are aliens, Tay. Of course they do not understand human jokes. This is first contact. First contact. And you proposed to their queen? To be fair, I did not know she was the queen when I said it. That makes it worse. The captain of the ship, an older man named Dury, put his face in his hands. This is a disaster. This could start a war, or end one, before it begins. I do not know which is worse. Can we explain? Tay asked. Can we tell them it was a mistake? Bora laughed bitterly. The Valari do not accept broken promises. If you refuse the bonding now, they will see it as an insult to the queen herself. Everything we worked for will be destroyed. Tay felt sick. So what do I do? The room was silent. Everyone looked at him with a mixture of pity and anger. Finally, Captain Dury spoke. You marry her, Tay. You marry the alien queen, and pray you do not get us all killed. That night Tay lay in his small bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in that black glass palace, a silver-skinned queen was preparing for a wedding. His wedding to him. I just wanted to fix engines, he said to no one. I just wanted to fix engines. The next morning, Tay was moved from the ship to the palace. He did not have a choice. 2 Valari guards came to his room and told him to follow. They were 8 feet tall and looked like they could break him in half without trying. He followed. His new room was larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The bed was big enough for 10 people. The walls were that same black glass, but now there were soft silver lights glowing inside them. A window showed the alien city below, full of tall buildings that reached toward the purple sky like fingers. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was his new home. A servant came and gave him new clothes. They were silver and white, made of fabric that felt like water against his skin. He looked at himself in the mirror and did not recognize the man looking back. I look like I am going to my own funeral, he muttered. The first meeting with Queen Izara happened that afternoon. He was brought to a room filled with strange plants and soft light. She sat on a simple chair, not a throne, and watched him enter. Sit, she said, pointing to a chair across from her. He sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. She studied him like a scientist studying a new insect. He tried not to fidget. The Valari bonding ritual requires us to spend time together, she said finally. We must harmonize our souls before the ceremony. Harmonize our souls, Tay repeated. What does that mean? We must learn each other, understand each other, become one mind. That sounds intimate. It is the most intimate thing Valari can do. More than physical bonding. It is the joining of thoughts. Tay swallowed hard. And how long does this take? As long as it needs to. Some take days. Some take years. Years. Is that a problem? Tay thought about it. Spending years with this beautiful, terrifying alien queen, learning her thoughts, letting her learn his. It was strange. It was crazy. But some small part of him, a part he did not want to admit existed, was curious. No, he said. No problem. The days that followed were the strangest of Tay's life. Every afternoon, he would meet with Isara. Sometimes they walked in the gardens. Sometimes they sat in her private rooms. Sometimes they simply looked at the stars together. She asked him many questions about humans. Why did they laugh? Why did they cry? What was the purpose of music? Why did they touch each other so much? Tay tried to explain, but it was difficult. These things were so natural to him that he had never thought about why they existed. We laugh because something makes us feel good, he said one day. It is like a release. Like pressure escaping from a pipe. Type, Isara repeated. She did not understand. Okay, bad example. You know, when you achieve something important? You conquer a world or win a battle? Yes. How does that feel? Isara thought about it. Satisfying. Complete. Right. Laughter is like that, but smaller. Little moments of satisfaction. Little victories against sadness and boredom. Isara was quiet for a while. Valari, do not laugh, she said finally. We do not have these little victories you speak of. Never? In your whole life you never laughed? Never. Emotion is considered a weakness among my people. We are taught to suppress it from birth, especially those of royal blood. Tay felt something strange in his chest. It felt like sadness, but not for himself. For her, that sounds lonely, he said softly. Isara looked at him sharply. I am the queen of 800 worlds. I am never alone. Being surrounded by people is not the same as not being lonely. She did not answer, but something flickered in her violet eyes. Something that looked almost like recognition. A week later, Tay decided to try something. During their afternoon meeting, instead of answering her questions seriously, he told her a joke. Why did the star go to school? He asked. Isara stared at him. Stars do not attend educational institutions. It's because it wanted to be brighter. Silence. It is a joke, Tay explained. Brighter means smarter, but also more light. Stars make light. So it is funny because the word has two meanings. I understand the structure, Isara said slowly, but I do not understand why this would cause laughter. Because it surprises you. Your brain expects one thing, and it gets another. The surprise is pleasant, so you laugh. Isara frowned. Valari do not enjoy surprises. Surprises are inefficiencies. They indicate poor planning. Tay groaned. Okay, different joke. What do you call a fish without eyes? Blind. F. Another silence. Then Isra's face did something strange. Her mouth twitched. Her eyes widened slightly. And then, from somewhere deep inside her, came a sound. It was small, soft, like a bird trying to sing for the first time. But it was unmistakably a laugh. Isra's hands flew to her mouth. Her violet eyes were huge with shock. What was that? She whispered. What did you do to me? Tay stared at her, equally shocked. You laughed. That is impossible. Valari, do not laugh. We cannot laugh, but you just did. Isara stood up quickly. She looked at her hands as if they belonged to a stranger. Then she looked at Tay with an expression he could not read. You have done something to me, human, she said. Some kind of magic. It is not magic. It is just. Being human, then humans are more dangerous than we knew. She left the room quickly, her silver robes flowing behind her. Tay sat alone, his heart beating fast. He had made the most powerful being in the galaxy laugh with a stupid joke about a fish. What was happening? That night, Queen Asara did something she had never done before. She opened a communication channel to Earth. The signal took time to travel across the stars. But eventually, a face appeared on her screen. It was a young woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. Her name was Hannah, and she was Yun Tae's younger sister. "Your Majesty," Hannah said, bowing deeply. "This is unexpected. You are the sibling of Yun Tae." "Yes. Is he in trouble?" "He's always in trouble." "He is not in trouble. I am calling because I need to understand." "Understand what?" Isara paused. This was difficult. She had never asked anyone for help before. But something was happening inside her. Something she could not control. And she needed answers. "I need to understand humans," she said finally. "Your brother has done something to me. He made me laugh." Hannah's eyes widened. Then she smiled. It was the same kind of smile Tae had. Warm and bright and full of life. "He made you laugh?" "That sounds like Tae. He makes everyone laugh, even when they do not want to." "How does he do this? What is his power?" Hannah laughed softly. "It is not power, Your Majesty. It is just love. He loves life. He loves people. And that love leaks out of him in the form of jokes and smiles. It is annoying sometimes, but it is also beautiful," Lavizara repeated. The word felt strange on her tongue. "You do not have this word in your language? We have duty. We have loyalty. We have purpose. But love. This is different?" Hannah leaned closer to the screen. Her eyes were serious now. "Love is the reason humans do everything, Your Majesty. We love, and we are loved, and that makes life worth living. Even when it is hard. Even when it hurts." Sarah thought about this for a long time after the call ended. She stood by her window and watched the 3 moons rise over her empire. 800 worlds. Billions of subjects. Absolute power. And yet, a human with stupid jokes had given her something she'd never had before. A laugh. A feeling. A tiny crack in the cold wall around her heart. She touched her chest. Where the laugh had come from, it still felt warm. "Dangerous," she whispered to herself. "Humans are very dangerous." But she was smiling when she said it. 3 weeks passed. Tae and Isora met every day. Sometimes twice a day. The formal meetings became longer. The silences became shorter. And slowly, carefully, they began to truly see each other. Tae learned that Isora was not born. She was made. The Valari created their rulers through careful genetic engineering. Every part of her was designed for perfection. Her intelligence, her strength, her beauty, even the color of her eyes was chosen by scientists before she existed. She had never played as a child. She had never had friends. From her first breath, she was trained to rule. Emotions were removed from her education like weeds from a garden. Weakness was not allowed. Softness was not permitted. She was a weapon shaped like a queen. "Did you ever want something different?" Tae asked one evening. They were sitting in the garden where they first met. The glowing plants cast soft light on their faces. Isara was quiet for a long time. "Want is not a word Valari use. We have purpose. We fulfill purpose. Want is for lesser beings." That did not answer my question. She looked at him. In the silver light, her eyes seemed almost human. "Once when I was young, I saw 2 servants talking. They were laughing about something. Sharing food, touching hands. I did not understand what they were doing, but I felt something when I watched them. Something in my chest. What did you feel?" "I do not have a word for it. A kind of hunger, not for food. For something else. Something I did not have." "Loneliness," Tae said softly. "You felt lonely." Sarah turned away. "That word is not in our language either. Maybe it should be." She did not answer. But she moved slightly closer to him on the bench. Their shoulders almost touched. For the Valaria, this was practically an embrace. Tae felt his heart beat faster. He was starting to feel things too. Dangerous things. Things that had no place in a political marriage between species. He was starting to care about her. Meanwhile, Trouble was growing in the shadows of the palace. Lord Keth was the queen's chief advisor. He had served her family for generations. He was old by Valari standards, his silver skin darker with age, his eyes sharp with decades of politics. He did not like this human. He did not trust this marriage. "The queen is changing," he said to his allies in a secret meeting. "She smiles now. She laughs. These are signs of corruption. What can we do?" asked one of the generals. "She has accepted the bonding. Her word is law."
Ow.
"Laws can be broken," Keth said darkly. "If the queen is proven unfit to rule, if she is shown to be mentally compromised, you would overthrow the queen." Keth's old eyes glittered. "I would save the empire. This human brings disease. Emotional disease. If it spreads, it will destroy everything the Valari have built." The conspirators nodded. Plans were made. Messages were sent. And slowly, a coup began to take shape. Tay knew nothing of this. He was too busy falling in love. He did not want to admit it. He tried to tell himself it was just fascination. Just curiosity. Just the strangeness of the situation. But every time Asara laughed at one of his jokes, every time she looked at him with those glowing eyes, every time she let her cold mask slip for just a moment, he fell a little deeper. Hannah noticed it during their calls. "You like her?" Hannah said one night, grinning through the screen. "I do not know what you are talking about. You talk about her constantly." Isara said this. "Izara did that. Isara has never tried chocolate, so I must find some for her." Tay's face turned red. "She is my fiancée. Of course I talk about her." "You called her cute again, did you not? That was an accident the first time. And now?" Tay was silent. Hannah's grin softened into something warmer. "It is okay to love her, Tay, even if she is an alien. Even if it is strange. Love does not follow rules. She is a queen, Hannah. She rules 800 worlds. And I am just me. You are exactly what she needs. Someone who sees her as a person, not a queen, not a weapon. Just Asara." One evening, Asara took Tay to the top of the highest tower in the palace. From there they could see the entire city glittering below like a sea of stars. "I accepted your proposal because of how you spoke to me," Isara said suddenly. She was staring at the horizon, not at him. "In the garden that night, I remember. I made a fool of myself. No. You spoke to me like I was normal. Like I was just a woman standing in a garden. No one has ever done that." Tay moved closer to her. "Is that what you want? To be normal?" "I do not know what I want. I was never taught to want. But when I am with you," she turned to face him. Her violet eyes were bright with something new. Something alive. "When I am with you, I feel like there might be more. More than duty. More than purpose. More than being a perfect machine." Tay reached out and took her hand. Her silver skin was cool against his warm palm. She stiffened at first, then slowly relaxed. "You are not a machine," he said. "You feel, you think, you laugh now, even if it is small. That is not a machine. That is a person. My people would call that weakness, and your people are wrong." He stood there, hand in hand, watching the 3 moons rise. Something passed between them, something neither of them could name. But Tay knew what it was. And he suspected Asara was beginning to understand it too. Love the next day, Tay discovered the conspiracy. He was walking through the palace when he heard voices from a half-open door. He stopped and listened. What he heard made his blood run cold. Lord Keth's voice, talking about removing the queen, about claiming she was mentally unfit, about ending the bonding and sending the humans away, or killing them if necessary. Tay backed away slowly. His mind raced. He had to warn someone. He had to tell Azara. But then another thought came to him. A darker thought. This was his chance to escape. If the coup happened, if the marriage was cancelled, he could go home. He could return to his normal life. Fixing engines. Telling jokes to no one. Being nobody special. He could leave all of this behind. He walked to his room slowly, He sat on his bed and thought for a long time. Outside his window, the alien sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. He thought about Earth, about his small apartment, about his old life. Then he thought about Asara, her laugh, her eyes, the way she held his hand like it was the most precious thing in the universe. The way she looked at him like he was someone worth looking at. He remembered her standing alone in the garden that first night, sad, beautiful, completely alone. If he left, she would be alone again, forever. The cold would return to her heart. The wall would rebuild itself, and she would never laugh again. Tay closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. "I'm an idiot," he said to himself. "A complete and total idiot." Then he stood up and went to find the queen. He was not going anywhere. Tay ran through the palace halls. His heart was pounding. His mind was racing. He had to find Isara. He had to warn her before it was too late. He found her in the throne room, surrounded by advisors. Lord Keth was there too, standing in the shadows, his dark eyes watching everything. "I need to speak with the queen," Tay said, pushing past the guards. "Alone. Now." The advisors looked shocked. No one spoke to the queen this way. No one demanded anything from her. But Asara simply raised her hand. "Leave us." The room emptied. Even Lord Keth left, though his eyes burned with hatred as he passed Tay. When they were alone, Tay told her everything. The conspiracy, the coup, the plans to remove her from power. Isara listened without moving. Her face was calm. Too calm, you knew, Tay realized. "You already knew," I suspected. "Keth has opposed me for years. He believes I am too young, too inexperienced, and now too emotional." She smiled slightly. "He blames you for that last part. What are you going to do?" "Wait. Watch. When he makes his move, I will end him." Tay grabbed her hands. "You cannot just wait. He is planning to hurt you, to kill me, to destroy everything." Sara looked down at their joined hands. Then she looked up at him with those glowing violet eyes. "You came to warn me," she said softly. "You could have stayed silent. Let the coup happen. Gone home to your old life?" That thought crossed my mind. Why did you not do it? Tay wanted to look away. He wanted to make a joke, to deflect with humor like he always did. But something in her eyes stopped him. "She deserved the truth, because I do not want to leave you," he said. "Because somewhere in the middle of all this craziness, I started to care about you. Really care. And I could not live with myself if I let them hurt you." Isara was silent for a long moment. Then she did something she had never done before. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. It was awkward. She was much taller than him. She held him stiffly, like she was not sure how hugging worked. But it was real. It was warm. It was the first time she had ever embraced anyone. "Thank you," she whispered into his hair. "Thank you for staying." The bonding ceremony was scheduled for the next day. Keth had to move fast. It happened at dawn. Tay was getting dressed in his ceremonial robes when he heard explosions, shouting, the sound of weapons firing. Guards burst into his room. But they were not there to protect him. They were there to arrest him. "The human has corrupted the queen," one of them announced. "By order of Lord Keth, you are to be executed." Tay's mind raced. He had no weapons, no training. He was just an engineer, but he was also very good at thinking fast. "The ceiling panels in this palace," he said quickly. "What material are they made of?" The guards looked confused. "What?" "I am an engineer. I spent weeks studying this palace. The ceiling panels are connected to the main power grid. If I short-circuit them," he pointed up, "everyone in this room gets electrocuted. Including me, yes, but also including you." The guards hesitated. They looked at each other nervously. "I am bluffing, of course," Tay continued. "Probably, maybe. Are you willing to take that chance?" One guard stepped forward. "You are lying." Tay smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I fixed the engine of a spaceship with nothing but tape and hope. I rewired the communication system using parts from a coffee machine. Do you really want to bet your life that I cannot figure out how to blow up a ceiling? The guards backed away slowly. Tay grabbed a ceremonial staff from the wall and ran. The palace was in chaos. Soldiers fought soldiers. Explosions shook the walls. Somewhere in the distance, Tay could hear Isra's voice, shouting commands. He had to find her in the main hall. Tay found the diplomatic team from Earth. They had been captured but not harmed. Bora, the lead diplomat, was tied to a pillar. Tay. She shouted, "What is happening?" "Coup," Tay said, cutting her ropes. "We need to help the queen. This is not our fight. We should escape while we can. She is my fiancée. It is absolutely my fight." Bora stared at him. Then she laughed. It was an exhausted, disbelieving laugh. "You actually love her, do you not? The alien queen. You actually love her," Tay said simply. "I do," he gathered the human crew. They were engineers, scientists, diplomats, not soldiers. But they knew technology, and the Valari Palace was full of technology. "Listen to me," Tay said. "The Valari are stronger than us, faster, better at fighting. But they designed this entire palace. They never thought someone would hack it from the inside. That is exactly what we are going to do." In 30 minutes, the humans took control of every system in the palace. Doors locked where enemies were gathered. Communication channels were hijacked. Security systems turned against their masters. And across all 800 worlds, broadcast began. It showed Queen Izara fighting. Not from a throne. Not with cold efficiency. But with fire. With passion, with something that looked almost human. It showed her laughing as she defeated her enemies, crying when she found wounded servants, raging against Keth and his betrayal. It showed her being emotional. Being alive, Tay appeared on the broadcast too, a small human covered in dust and sweat, standing beside the towering alien queen. "The Valari were taught that emotion is weakness," Tay said into the camera. "That feeling makes you less. But look at your queen. She feels more than ever, and she has never been stronger. Emotion is not a disease. It is a gift, and it is time the Valari learned to feel again." Across 800 worlds, Valari watched. They saw their perfect queen become something new, something different, something more. And for the first time in their history, they wondered if everything they believed was wrong. The battle ended in the throne room. Keth stood alone, surrounded by guards loyal to the queen. His forces had crumbled. His allies had fled or surrendered. "You've ruined everything," he snarled at Isara. "Generations of work, centuries of perfection, destroyed by human corruption." Isara stepped forward. She was wounded, tired, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. "You are wrong," she said. "I am not ruined. I am finally complete." She turned to look at Tay. He was standing at the edge of the room, exhausted and bleeding from a cut on his forehead. But he was smiling. Of course he was smiling. He could not help it. "This human taught me something you never could," Izara continued. "He taught me that strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the courage to feel anyway. To love, to hope, to laugh, even when it is hard. Even when it hurts." Keth spat on the ground. "Love, hope. These are weaknesses." "No," Isara said. "They are the things worth fighting for." Or she raised her hand. Keth closed his eyes, waiting for death, but it did not come. Instead, Izara lowered her hand. "I will not kill you," she said. "That is what the old me would have done. The machine. The weapon. But I am not that anymore. You will live. And you will watch as the Empire becomes something better." Guards took Keth away. The throne room fell silent. Isara turned to Tay. Her silver skin was marked with battle. Her white hair was tangled. But to Tay, she had never looked more beautiful. "You stayed," she said. Her voice cracked slightly. "Even when everything was falling apart. You stayed?" Tay shrugged. You would make a cute wife. I had to see that through, Izara laughed. A real laugh. Full and warm and alive. Then she grabbed him and kissed him. The broadcast was still running. All 800 worlds watched their queen kiss a human, and for the first time in Valari history, many of them smiled. 1 month after the failed coup, the bonding ceremony finally happened. But it looked nothing like what the Valari had originally planned. The old ceremony was cold and formal. 2 people standing apart, speaking ancient words, no touching, no emotion, no joy. Tay refused to accept this. If I am going to marry someone, I am going to do it properly, he told Izara. Humans have traditions too, and our traditions involve happiness. So they changed everything. The ceremony was held in the garden where they first met. The glowing plants created a soft silver light. The 3 moons hung in the sky like witnesses. But there were also flowers from Earth, shipped across the galaxy. There was music, played by Valari musicians who had spent weeks learning human songs. There was laughter. So much laughter. Guests came from hundreds of worlds. Valari nobles stood next to human diplomats. Scientists talked with artists. Old enemies discovered they could be friends. Hannah arrived 3 days before the ceremony. When she stepped off her ship, Tay ran to meet her. They hugged for a long time, neither wanting to let go. You look different, Hannah said, pulling back to study his face. Older, happier. I feel different, Tay admitted. I never thought I would find anything like this. Anyone like her? And yet you found her by accident? By saying something stupid. That is the story of my life. Hannah laughed and hugged him again. I am so proud of you, Tay. Our parents would be so proud. The meeting between Hannah and Izara was something Tay had worried about. The 2 most important women in his life, face to face. What if they did not get along? What if there was jealousy or competition? He should not have worried. Izara and Hannah embraced like old friends. They had been talking secretly for months, after all. Hannah had taught Izara about human emotions, about love, about the beautiful mess of being alive. In many ways, Hannah had helped Izara become who she was now. Thank you, Izara said, holding Hannah's hands. You gave me the words for what I was feeling. You helped me understand. You did the hard work, Hannah replied. I just pointed you in the right direction. And thank you for loving my brother. He needs someone to keep him out of trouble. I do not think that is possible, Izara said with a smile. But I will try. The ceremony began at sunset. The sky turned orange and purple, then deepened to the color of wine. Stars appeared one by one, like guests arriving late to a party. Tay stood at the altar in his finest clothes. They were a blend of human and Valari styles. A dark jacket from Earth, silver patterns from the Empire. He had never felt more nervous in his life. Then Izara appeared, and he forgot how to breathe. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of moonlight. It flowed around her like water, shimmering with every step. Her silver skin glowed softly. Her violet eyes found his across the crowd. She was smiling. Queen Izara of the Valari Empire. Ruler of 800 worlds, the most powerful being in 3 galaxies, was smiling on her wedding day. Tay felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. They spoke their vows in 2 languages. Valari words of eternal commitment. Human words of love and hope and partnership. The crowd was silent, watching history unfold. When it was time for the final vow, Tay took Izra's hands in his. They were cold against his warm skin, but he loved that contrast. He loved everything about her. I promise to make you laugh, he said, every day. Even when you do not want to. Even when the universe is falling apart. I will find something funny to say. Because your laugh is the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. Izra's eyes shone with tears. Valari did not cry. They could not cry. But something wet slid down her silver cheek anyway. I promise to feel, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Every day. Even when it hurts. Even when it is easier to be cold. I will feel. Because you taught me that feeling is not weakness. It is the thing that makes us alive. It kissed. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and Valari side by side, celebrating together. The celebration lasted for 3 days. There was food from every corner of the empire, music that had not been played in centuries, dancing that had never existed before. Tay and Isara danced together under the 3 moons. He had to stand on his toes sometimes, and she had to bend down, but they made it work. They would always make it work. "Tell me a joke," Isara whispered as they swayed to the music. "Now, we are in the middle of our wedding dance. Now, I want to remember this moment with a laugh." Tay thought for a second. Then he grinned. What did the human say to the alien queen? What? Nothing. He just kissed her. And he did. In the years that followed, the Velar Empire transformed. It was slow at first. Old habits were hard to break. Generations of suppressing emotions could not be undone in a day. But it happened. Schools began teaching about feelings, not as weaknesses to overcome, but as experiences to understand. Children learned to laugh. Adults learned to cry. Artists created works that spoke to the heart, not just the mind. Music filled the streets of Valari cities. Real music, with emotion and passion. Not the cold, mathematical compositions of the past. People fell in love. They chose their partners instead of accepting arranged bonds. They held hands in public. They smiled at strangers. The empire did not grow weaker. It grew stronger. People who felt connected to each other worked harder for each other. Wars became less frequent because enemies could now imagine each other's pain. The cold efficiency of the old empire was replaced by warm determination. Historians would later call this period the Great Softening, but that name was not quite right. The empire did not become soft. It became human. Well, partly human. It became something new. Something that combined the best of both species. Tay and Isara ruled together for many years. He was never called king. He preferred the title of royal engineer. He spent his days fixing things around the palace, telling jokes to servants, making his wife laugh. They had children eventually. 3 of them. 2 were silver-skinned with violet eyes. 1 had her father's warm brown skin and her mother's height. All of them laughed constantly. On quiet nights, Tay and Isara would return to the garden where they first met. They would sit on the same bench, under the same glowing plants. And remember, Tay said one evening, holding her hand, all of this happened because I got lost and said something stupid. Isara smiled. It was not stupid. It was the truest thing anyone had ever said to me. That you would make a cute wife? That I was just a person. Standing in a garden? Worth talking to like a normal being? That one sentence changed everything. Tay squeezed her hand. Humans are pretty good at saying things that change everything. It is kind of our specialty. Is that why your species survives? Despite being small and weak and strange? Hey, we are not that strange. You eat fermented milk and call it cheese? You run for fun? You pay money to be scared by fake stories. You are extremely strange. Tay laughed. Okay, fair. But yes, I think that is why we survive. We feel, we love, we connect. And sometimes we say exactly the right stupid thing at exactly the right moment. Isara leaned down and rested her head on his shoulder. It was uncomfortable. She was too tall for this position. But neither of them moved. Thank you, she said quietly.
For what?
For wandering into my garden. For speaking without fear. For teaching me what it means to be alive. Tay kissed the top of her silver head. Thank you for agreeing to marry me. Even though I was clearly joking, I knew you were not joking. Even then, some part of me knew. You saw me, Tay. Really saw me. And you did not look away. That was the bravest thing anyone had ever done. They sat in silence, watching the 3 moons rise, somewhere across the galaxy, on 800 different worlds. The children of the Valari Empire were learning to laugh. And it all started with 1 nervous engineer, 1 lonely queen, and 1 perfect, stupid, beautiful sentence. You would make a cute wife. I agree.